From Hearts&Minds Development Center. Well, I hope you have had a good week and a great Friday. So thank you for joining us in Being Whole, Being Me, Series 67. And today, of course, we have a not interesting, but I think exciting guest, right? To talk about something that probably will impact every one of us in the way we speak, in the way we relate to people, and relate in a way that we don't get into trouble. So, hi, Tangam Murugesan. Finally, nice to say hi to you. Thanks for joining us, Tangam. Now, so we are going to talk about sexual harassment because we know a bill has been passed. So, whether you're harassing people or being harassed or not harassed, we need to understand this because it's going to impact the way we communicate, impact the way we show up, impact the way we safeguard ourselves. So, without much ado, let's bring on Thamarai Letchmi, who's agreed to educate us so that we are safe. Hi, Thamarai.
Hi, Malar. How are you?
I am good. I'm good. I'm excited. I'm good and I'm excited because it's really interesting, right? Sexual harassment is a topic that, generally in years of work, we've always heard about it. But when I'm trying to prepare and to ask you the questions, you just don't think about it in the passing, but you begin to think about it in a much more serious manner, right? As to what it really means, because I think there was at some point of time the Me Too movement, right? And I thought it had already reached its peak until when I picked this up with you, I realized I'm thinking of how it feels to have, I would think, a basic law like this to be passed for 21 years, the waiting and the challenges and difficulties that people would have experienced. So really, thank you for saying yes, and thank you for coming onto our show. And I just want to say this, right? It shocked me when I went into Clubhouse last year, and there's this group called Speak Up, and it was a session where all lawyers were gathered together. And one of the lawyers, who was very vocal, she said 70% of lawyers who get sexually harassed don't complain. And I think that was the time I was really feeling pretty emotional. So for me, anything was I feel emotional first. I'm like, really? Like, you're a lawyer? I thought if you're a lawyer, you won't be afraid because you know the law and you know how to get justice, right? And you should, but if you all don't complain, then how the heck other people would, right? But anyway, so that's fantastic, and I loved having conversation. So just very quickly, right? Tell us what made you join the police force.
Okay, Malar, I come from a family of uniform personnel. my late father was a soldier. I had many cousins and uncles and second cousins and all that who were members of the armed forces. But I was the first one to join the police in my family. Anyway, at the end of the day, it was the love of the uniform which made me join. But subsequently, I feel very blessed to be in the police force because it gives you an opportunity to serve people, to help people. I cannot help everybody all the time, but I believe I have made a difference in many people's lives.
Nice, nice. Thank you so much. So nice to hear you saying that. Well, I wanted to be a policeman whenever I saw Tamil movies, and they were this good-looking heroines who who would wear the uniform, right? But I know I would have never made it. Anyway, my height wouldn't have. First and foremost, I can't qualify.
We are not that glamorous like the Tamil movie heroines.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. So for me, that was the only thing. Now, when I think about it, when I was thinking of the interview, I said, "Wow, lucky never joined the police because I know I'm not a fit at all, right?" So yeah, that's now tell me, when you were in the police force, how much were you working with women and in the space of um, sexual violence?
Okay. You can say throughout my service, which was 36 years, I have been working with women and children's issues. I was a pioneer in the Royal Malaysia Police sexual assault, child abuse, and domestic violence unit, which was newly set up in 1986. So I was a pioneer then. My partner and I in Riley Kwasa, she is a retired Assistant Commissioner of Police, Chulili, and we were the pioneers. So I have been dealing with all these women issues, whether it's sexual assault, whether it's child abuse, domestic violence. Throughout my career for 36 years, I've been dealing with these issues, and it's a very sad state of affairs to have to deal with this kind of issues
Mm,
where mostly I would say 95% of the victims are women and children, and it's very sad to have to deal with um, issues simply because they are the weaker gender.
mm. And tell us a little bit about this new law that has been passed, from
Okay,
your. Yeah.
okay.
So, for my women who are listening, listen what this is all about.
Let me start by telling you that sexual harassment is not a new issue. The first reported case was way back in 1939. You're talking about 80 plus years ago. This was in Klang, where it was a club where the European patrons were harassing the Asian workers. So this was the first case. And then we have been having cases frequently after that, where in the estates, when you have rubber tappers who are predominantly women, and you have a supervisor or manager who goes early of the hours of the morning, because tapping rubber is always a very early business, and they were harassed. And there was a class action started by a group of female rubber tappers. I believe it was in Kulim. It was in the
Mm,
40s. So it's
mhm,
been going on, but it was isolated cases, piecemeal fashion. There was really no comprehensive law to support victims of sexual harassment until we had this international conventions, CEDAW, Convention on Elimination of Discrimination Against Women. Okay, so when we have international instruments, our local domestic laws must keep pace. So we had some kind of laws, like we had the Domestic Violence Act, the Child Abuse Act. We are already party. We ratified the child rights of child, the international convention. So we had that, but sexual harassment per se, we did not have any domestic legislation which addressed it. So we
Mm.
started off with wanting to have this bill in way back in 1999, talk of having this bill, this law passed, anti-sexual harassment. It has been 23 years in the making.
Mm.
Finally, it has seen some light of day, and I believe that we'll soon be having the Anti-Sexual Harassment Act. Okay, can I just explain a little bit about this act?
Yes,
This
please.
act, yeah, this act actually outlines what is sexual harassment, which if you find if you look in the Employment Act, we also have a detailed description on what is sexual harassment.
Mm.
Employment Act, yeah. If you look at it's section 81, which details that sexual harassment can be an unwanted behavior which is sexual in nature, which causes feelings of unease in the victim, humiliation, distress, a lot of negative feelings.
Mm.
It can be physical, it can be verbal, it can be gesture, it can be sound, it can be looks. A whole load of things can be sexual harassment. You would never think that eating a banana suggestively in front of your female colleague can amount to sexual harassment, but yes, that is what it is. So, all the guys who are listening, please take your
Don't.
banana elsewhere to eat. Okay, don't eat it suggestively in front of your female colleagues. Okay,
Sorry.
if the
Okay, sorry, go, go.
no, you can ask me the
No,
question
I
now.
got excited about the banana, but you finish first, then I'll bring the banana in.
Okay, all right. We had one reported case. It's a real case. I'm telling you from experience about a guy who runs to open the door for his female colleague. Okay, this young, pretty girl. Every time she comes in, this male colleague will run to open the door, get the door for her. Once, twice, you'll think, wow, he's a gentleman, Victorian age, opening the door for the ladies. But when he does it repeatedly and he gets so offended when somebody else opens the door for her, it becomes a harassing behavior. Comes the harassing behavior. She starts feeling uneasy. She starts feeling that he's singling her out for attention, therefore putting a very negative perspective on the whole thing, where her colleagues are concerned. Colleagues will be wondering, what's wrong? Why? I mean, what's going on here? Why is he opening the door? This is a real case. Okay. We consider that behavior to be sexual harassment. So it need not be. Most people think that touching, groping, or using lewd words amount to sexual harassment. Something like that is also sexual harassment. So the areas where you can attach sexual harassment to people's behavior is mind-boggling, is wide. Okay, we would be very, very careful how we talk to our colleagues. I'm conducting my first public course on Monday and Tuesday in Swiss Garden Hotel on sexual harassment. This is a client who asked me, as a manager, is it wrong for me to tell my secretary that she's beautiful? I said, depends on how you say it. If you tell her, Miss Tan, you look very nice today, I'm sure she'll be feeling very complimented by your remark. But if you look at her, Miss Tan, wow, you're looking very nice today, and you give her the looks up and down and all that, she's going to feel what a creep this guy is, you know. She's going to start moseying around the HR to see whether she can get another appointment somewhere else. So, okay, I ran away with myself. I'm coming back to this sexual harassment bill. Okay, it it tells you what sexual harassment is. Practically everything which has got a sexual innuendo, which makes the recipient of those action or words or whatever uneasy, we will term it as sexual harassment. Okay, it's the feeling of the offended person here which is very, very important. Okay, this bill also lays down certain liabilities on the employer and on the perpetrator. You must act on the sexual harassment bill. You know, companies are bound to take action. If an employee reports on sexual harassment and the organization does not take action, she can straight away go to the DG of Labor, and the DG of Labor will inquire. Well, what was done? Nothing was done. So the organization straight away is liable for a fine of $10,000 for failure to act on complaints of sexual harassment. I think a lot of people are not aware of this provision. I think most Malaysians, we only fear when financial punitive measures are imposed on us. Take, for example, I'm giving you an example. A fire truck or an ambulance wants to overtake you because they are having an emergency. We will race with them. We will not give them way because you know that they cannot do anything to you. Okay? But at the same time, it was the police patrol car which is asking for way, everybody will move out of the way very fast. Otherwise, the fellow will stop you and give you a fine. So, money makes the world go round in this case. When you talk about punitive measures, people will take notice. I believe a lot of companies do not know, a lot of organizations, a lot of people do not know if a complaint of sexual harassment is not dealt with, then the company is facing punitive measures. Plus, of course, no company, no organization wants to see its reputation spoiled by outside interference. Okay, I mean, an independent person. So, coming back to the new bill, other than telling what constitutes sexual harassment, it lays down mechanism on what an aggrieved person can do. An aggrieved person has to go to the tribunal set up under this act, this anti-sexual harassment bill, which will soon become an act. Okay, the mechanism of the tribunal has not been finalized. I think eventually it will be finalized in a year or two. But there is a place, an independent place. Instead of going to HR, okay, the company HR, this aggrieved person can go to an independent third person, which is the tribunal. The tribunal can hear, can summon witnesses and all that. They can conduct an inquiry. Okay, inquiry independent of the HR or the company's involvement in it. Most companies, HR and all that, I believe, this is my opinion, not not atas angin opinion, because of the many years of experience. I believe companies like to sweep this under the carpet because they don't want the hassle of having to deal with. More often than not, the harasser is always in a superior position than the victim. So that, so the tribunal now will pass an award. The tribunal has got an authority to pass an award, okay, against the defendant, which is the perpetrator or even the organization for that matter. Okay, so now the tribunal can order the perpetrator to apologize to the victim. Okay, apologize to the victim is one of the awards. Second, publish in writing, publish newspaper, WhatsApp, whatever, in writing that he has done something wrong and he wishes to. It's a restitution of some sort, yeah. Wishes to make amends, apologize, and all that. Thirdly, if the victim has suffered financial losses, she lost her job, she couldn't get a job, she was so traumatized that she had to go seek medical treatment, she couldn't work anymore, you know. It's happened, Malar. We think that we think in terms of just a little disturbance here and there, people can just move on and move on with life. I will tell you an example after this, how badly the lady was affected. Yeah. So the award, cash award, can the tribunal can give up to $250,000 in award to the victim. Okay, that's a lot of money. That's $250,000. The person who is harassing the victim, he better have that kind of money lying around.
So if you have money, it's okay to harass. But just make sure for every woman or every person you want to harass, not woman, every person you want to harass, just put aside 250 just in
Yes,
case you
yes. Keep a few million loose change lying around.
lose
But
stage.
but of course, this punitive or this cash will be actual cost incurred and some form of punitive damages too. Okay, up to 250 million,
Mm, mm.
250,000. Sorry, not million.
250,000.
Yeah, that is the third award. And the fourth award, if looks like the perpetrator has got some deep seated issues with this harassing behavior, this tribunal can order him to attend any programs, rehabilitative programs, you
So
know.
if I'm not well, I mean the fifth one, right? So if I claim that I have issues, right, for example, and I go for rehab, I don't have to pay the 250,000 now.
No, you still have to pay. You
But
still
not
have to
fair
pay.
because mentally I wasn't stable, right?
Of course, that will come to adducing evidence during the tribunal hearing itself.
I was just
Okay.
checking. I was just checking.
Okay. Let's just say that this man is mentally unstable. Okay, he's got mental issues. His lawyer has to, I mean, he or his lawyer have to adduce that evidence in court, and the court will award the last award, which is for him to undergo mental evaluation and probably put in Tampoy or Tanjung Rambutan. If he really has got mental issues.
Mm, mm.
Okay, a lot of people try to hide behind the mental issue thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
but I
maybe an addiction, but never mind. We'll go back to. Sorry, is there anything else you want to add? So what you've actually done is you've told us how wide the scope of sexual harassment is.
yes.
And I like the banana story. I'm still stuck with that. But you've also told us, with the tribunal, how easily you can actually, if you're uncomfortable, you can go straight to the tribunal and seek justice. And you've actually given us the 5 levels, which is, first and foremost, the easiest one would be to apologize, right?
Yeah.
I want to just
Yeah.
go back to this. So if I feel harassed, if I feel
Okay.
harassed,
Okay.
um, now, what's the immediate thing that I need to do before I take action? Because sometimes, somebody could be eating a banana suggestively in front of me, and I could have smiled because I don't know how else to respond, right? And I may not have given the feedback that it's not okay. So, is there something that, as so-called victims, we need to immediately give feedback first before we bring it up?
Okay. First and foremost, Alara, I think harassing behavior is not a one-off thing.
Okay.
It's not a one-off incident. It has to be persistent harassment.
Hmm.
Persistent. If it's a one-off thing, most of us will just look the other way. Maybe he got up on the wrong side of the bed. Okay, forget about that idiot. Let's go back to work, kind of thing. Okay. Before that, can I also qualify? Harassment happens to both sexes, male and
Yes, yes.
female.
I was going to ask you if I ate the banana suggestively and I was looking at a guy, would that amount to sexual harassment?
If
But
you
you
do
already
it, if you do it daily, yes, perhaps she will go to the tribunal.
Mm.
Okay.
If I
So
do eat a banana, then I just make sure I'm not looking at a guy. Now, so what? So this is easy, right? Male, female, it's easy. So
Mhm.
I'm eating a banana or doing whatever, and I'm looking at, right? But what if I'm eating a banana or looking suggestively or saying suggestive stuff to another female?
Yeah, you can harass another female, male can harass another male. It goes whichever way, male to female, female to male. Harassment is harassment. It says the law says any person, doesn't qualify. Okay, there's another interesting thing which I have to share here is that transgender and transvestite, okay,
Mm.
there is no legal recognition from that in this country that they are the gender they have chosen. They are always stuck legally with the gender they are born with. Okay, if it's male who has become a female, okay, for legal purposes he is still considered a male.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's a female who has become a male, for legal purposes, she still remains a female.
Okay.
Can you imagine when we were in the when I was an active serving officer and we have picked up transvestites or transsexuals? The real worry is where to keep them in the lockup. If you put them in the male lockup as they are supposed to be, we don't want some sodomy cases the next day. You know, somebody in the lockup may harass them. So we always try and keep them separately in a separate cell so that nothing happens to them. But the fact is, they remain male. Okay, so it's a very sad thing. Well, that's the nation's policy. I got nothing to say on that. Okay, let's continue, Malar.
Yes, yes, yes. So I think what you've made clear is that, so tell me whether I've understood you correctly. So sexual harassment is at a receiving end if I feel any of your gestures, anything that you say or do, right,
Yeah,
that makes me feel like you're giving me, it has got a sexual connotation, and
correct.
and it's repeated,
Yes,
and I'm feeling uncomfortable,
correct,
it could amount to sexual harassment,
correct.
right? Now, my next question is, if I'm feeling it, whether it's the first time or the second time or the third time, doesn't matter which time, right? The moment I feel, oh, I think this person is trying to be funny, right? And I'm thinking it's a harassment. What is the immediate thing that you would recommend for people to do? Is it running
Okay,
to the, yeah?
okay. I would say that you have to look at the long term and think evidence.
Okay.
If this is a repeated behavior, how am I going to prove it? Let's say I'm going to the HR, company HR, I must be armed with something. So the
Mm,
easiest thing I could do is confide in my friend in the office. I look at the fella, he's doing this to me, you know, he's eating the banana in a funny way in front of me. He did it yesterday. I thought it's a one-off thing. He's doing it again today. I think so something seriously wrong with him. Okay, you tell your colleagues, or you can just write down in a note. Okay, at such a day, such a time, Mr. ABC came, you know, totally not relevant to my office, but he came and stood at the door and looked at me and started peeling his bananas and eating in a suggestive manner, and I'm beginning to feel a bit uneasy about it. Okay, so you
mm,
record down either by way of writing, or you can even take a picture. Hey, why are you eating bananas in front of me? I'm going to take a picture. Okay, I'm going to complain. Right, maybe you can frighten him off. So just let him know, sorry, I'm using the word him for want of a better word. So let
only because it's 95%. Okay, Gerald, don't worry. We're not saying men are not harassed, but basically we're generalizing because 95% of the complaints, and also Tangam Murugism, because the two
actually
guys that have joined us.
actually not really 95%. I would say more like 85%. The number of men who are getting harassed too, and by women, not by fellow men. Huh? Okay.
That will be
So
the exciting, juicy part. We'll keep for it shortly. Coming to y'all, who those are arrested, let's talk about this now.
okay. When I used to lecture, I'll keep the juicy stories for the afternoon when it's sleepy time, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'm coming back to what you can do to gather evidence. Take a picture.
Mm,
When you get a WhatsApp from your colleague who says, "Come, let's go for lunch. Come, let's go for dinner. Come, let's go for a movie." You know, it's keep on repeating. Do not
mm.
get angry and do not delete the messages. Keep the messages. You will need it. Okay. If
Somebody,
a
I can't even ask people for lunch and dinners and
if
movies.
it's if you say no and that person keep on, I'm talking about persistent behavior. Okay, not taking no for an answer. Most people will call you twice, and if you don't want to go for lunch, they will say, hey, I think Mother has got some issues with me, she doesn't want to come out with me, better I think I leave her alone. Okay, so I'm talking about persistent behavior, persistently calling you out for lunch, persistently sending you suggestive pictures on email or WhatsApp, you know, the kind of risk kind of jokes, dirty jokes,
Mm,
persistently sending. You must tell him, look here, I'm uneasy with this. You have WhatsApp group, right? You have college WhatsApp group, friends WhatsApp group, and all that. When you start a WhatsApp group, you have ground rules where you tell people, look here, we don't want anything which is religious in nature. Okay, we are multi-religious group here. You put something on your religion, I put something on my religion, we'll have a religion warfare here. Okay, let's refrain from that. No dirty jokes, please. These are some things that you can um, uh, do in advance, say in advance, protect yourself from future repetition of these things. So,
So yeah,
so
Tamray, so what
mm,
I'm coming to, right, is that
mhm,
when you feel you're sexually harassed, first
yeah,
and foremost, communicate that. Because
correct.
they're not communicating that, and I know I can write down 3,000 notes, I can go and tell my colleagues, I can videotape, but I've never told the perpetrator I'm feeling harassed, right?
Yes.
So I think it's really important that people learn how to speak up and say, I think that action was not right. Because I think in the Asian context, if someone says, oh, you're beautiful, I mean, if people tell me, I'll say, thank you, lah,
Yeah.
right? Whether suggestive
Yeah.
or non-suggestive, like unless they're direct. And, so
But
I
if
think,
the same person were to tell you every day, Malar, for a month, oh, you're beautiful, oh, you're beautiful, you will feel not complimented, you will feel harassed.
okay, maybe I don't have people harassing me. I'm thinking more of me harassing people because I'm telling people they're beautiful. I mean, really, as you're talking about it, my colleague is laughing. So I have those persistent behaviors, which is actually you tell people they're good looking because I think they're good looking. And also, when I call people out for lunch, I'm quite persistent, right? When they say no. So now I'll remember to tell them, I better say no if, right? So, I understand what you're saying because you will understand the underlying intention when people look at
Yes.
you. You
Yes.
will know what is right. And so I get it. But at the same time, I also think as, maybe as a woman, right? I think sometimes even if I went and shared something with a friend and say, hey, look at the fellow, he's looking at me, right? I could
Mhm.
have a friend, turn around and say, hey, you're very shocked, Sandiri, when the fellow just looking, right? Or I think the common reaction that I've seen and heard is that you see, la, the way you dress is like that. Of course, people will look at
Mm,
you, la. You don't
mm,
want people to look at you, right?
mm.
So, and what then
Very
happens?
Malaysian.
What
Blame
do you
the
mean?
victim.
Yeah. So I think sometimes it can be very confusing for a woman, right? To like, okay, what do I do in this circumstances? How do I tell that person, right? Before I start collecting even evidence, right? Because if we all can learn how to say this in the first instance, and not try and be polite and all that, I think these things can be minimized, lah. Where more women or
Can you just give me 1 minute, please?
okay. So as Tamre goes and why are you all so quiet now? All these people on LinkedIn and Facebook. Is there a reason why you guys are quiet? Is it
I'm back.
because the topic is serious? Okay, he's back. So is he okay?
Okay.
Mm,
Yeah, Malal, to answer your question,
mm,
okay, if the person depends on, we are talking about sexual harassment in the workplace. If the person is your peer,
mm.
okay, would you dare to tell him, please don't look at me like that, please step out of my personal space and go and eat your banana elsewhere? I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. No, I get you, but the reason I'm asking this question is whenever I've attended sexual harassment courses, or we have a talk, right? I find that I think first and foremost for young ladies, especially young girls, who
Mhm.
are growing up in a culture where we tend to blame the women first,
Yeah.
to even know, is it okay for me to actually say don't look at me, to okay, is it even okay, what right do I have to do that? I think that's more like where the question is actually coming from lah. Now in the police force, right? Have you all experienced sexual harassment?
Well, you look at me. I'm 5 feet 8 inches tall, and I weigh 80 plus kilograms, and I have been harassed, sexually harassed. Yeah, it's 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 something, it's a male centric force where about 90%, 87% of the police force is male. We work for every female you work with. There are 5 or 6 men that you work with. We have all kind. I mean, physically, no. I think I'll probably take down anybody who tries to be funny with me with one karate chop. But I'm talking about uh, verbal harassment. Every other day we have to put up with it. Why are
Give us
you
some
late?
examples.
Oh, it's a simple question. Why are you late for the meeting? Oh, last night was Malam Jumaat, right? That's why you're late for the something must have happened. That's why you have washed your hair. Come on, Indian girls wash their hair Friday mornings because we do prayers. I mean, I'm a Hindu, so I do my prayers. So when you go to the office, we don't have the luxury of a hair dryer because we are rushing. I have 4 children. I'm rushing to work. The moment I end up in the meeting room, we are so serious. We have to brief serious cases, and then you have somebody who says, "Why are you late?" Oh, semalam malam Jumaat. Oh patut lah. That is sexual harassment. That makes you boil. But because it's your boss, you just cannot say anything.
Mm, mm,
Hmm.
mm, mm.
So if you ask me, have I scared to ask? Carol Fernandez sounds very familiar. I had a colleague by the name, that same name, police
No,
officer.
no, this guy is not in the police. That's why he's scared to ask.
Okay. Okay.
He's so cute.
So you see, it happens, as you said, 70% of lawyers have been victims of sexual harassment. These are people who can just take a lawsuit and sue the perpetrator, they just do nothing about it. Okay. Here we are law enforcement officers, and we are harassed ourselves. We did
Okay,
nothing about it. Yeah.
nice. So, Tamara, to tell us, I mean, I think you've given us a real good idea about how careful we need to be,
Mhm.
right? And why we all need to understand sexual harassment, because what could have been in the past something that we considered okay, normal, friendly can amount to sexual harassment today. And we all need to know how to read the signs and accept the feedback, from whoever is feeling harassed and act on it if you don't want it to get to tribunal. Lah. Because yeah. So now, tell me, in your experience, right? I mean, we've been talking about sexual harassment for years, right? Now,
That's right.
oh, Gerald has the question. He was scared, and then now he's asking the question. So, Gerald, I'm not sure whether you were here. She was telling that yes, there has been harassment, but I think there's a second part of the question. How is it dealt with in the police force? I think is what Gerald is asking.
There have been reports in recent times, not when I was a young officer, way back in the 80s, we just did nothing. Boss is always right. We always say yes, sir, and move on. Okay?
Mm,
But in recent times, some of the younger girls who join the police force when they are in their mid 20s and they have some form of maturity, they have been exposed to the outside world and they know how to deal with it. They make police reports, they take on the bosses. There have been cases. But
mm,
if you're asking me 30, 35 years ago, I think virtually it goes unreported. We just put up with it, bear it in silence, pretty much like most women everywhere.
nice, nice, thanks. So, generally, what you're saying is that I think generally the younger women have been more courageous to stand for their rights. They know
I
their
would say
rights.
more exposed is one thing.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
more courageous, definitely. Exposure gives you the courage to know
Mm,
what is right and wrong. Most
mm,
of them have a varsity education. Most of them come in with a master's degree and all that.
mm,
So they are pretty exposed and they know their rights they are very well versed with what is their rights and all that.
mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So, in your experience, right, when you look at, so we're saying, you know, 70% of the cases goes unreported in these type of jobs. We're talking about the lawyers and the police force, right, where justice is served. Now, so I'm sure it's higher in most other places. So, whatever it is, whatever that gets reported reported is really probably the minute of the case, because we don't really know the actual numbers. But having said that, what do you think is the difficulty? So those who come and report, and they wouldn't have reported immediately, they would have, it would have happened many times. They would have hesitated, thought about it, really cannot tahan. That's why they complain or they report, right? Now, what causes people, what makes it difficult for victims to come up and seek justice? I mean, now we've set up the tribunal, that's 2 years more to come, but from your experience in dealing with victims who either come up to report or who come and tell you, whisper in your ears, what makes them hesitate?
Okay, we talk about various forms of harassment, Malar. First,
Mm,
there are some which are very physical, groping,
mm,
groping, pinching of the butt. In certain cases, outright rape, sexual intercourse against the consent of the victim. So,
mm.
in this kind of cases, you get more police reports. They are more likely to come forward immediately to make a police report.
Because it's
Okay,
clear.
yeah, it's very clear cut, and they will not people do not have a tolerance level for physical abuse in the
Mm,
workplace. So we are more concerned about those things which slowly eat you up mentally. Every day when you go to work, your boss is looking for a chance to come lean over you, crowd into your personal space on the pretext of giving you some work. That kind. He has got a legitimate excuse to be near you, but you listen to your body. Your body will tell you whether this is sexual or you're being violated. You as a person, you will sense it, whether there's some underlying intent behind this so-called this innocent act of your your peer. Okay, so in this case, when there is such a thing, you will have a slow burn kind of thing when it's not physical in nature. Slow burn after 2 years of putting up with this, of saying no, of having fake illness to avoid going for a company trip to Genting Highlands and all that. So comes a breaking point when there's she cannot take anymore. The victim cannot take anymore, and then she goes to HR. HR will more often than not will. I mean, I don't know how many of you in the audience are from the HR. Forgive me if I ruffle a few feathers, but companies' reputation is very important. They might try to overlook it. So
mm,
in this case, what happens, Malar? The victim is further penalized. She will be
mm.
transferred or she will be asked to resign. Have you heard of the famous case of Lillian DiCosta? Okay, this was a case where Lillian DiCosta was harassed by her manager,
Mm,
rubbing, pinching butts and all that. It went on for some time. When she came to a stage where she couldn't take it, she lodged a report. She
mm,
lodged a report, and then it became a big issue. She went to court and all that. So what happens when this kind of thing happens? They terminate the complaining staff.
the
So a
victim.
lot of the victim. So a lot of time you'll find that the victims are not willing to come forward because of the career progression will be disrupted. Either they are terminated or they are transferred to another department. Why should
Or they simply make your life difficult, right? Because
yeah,
if it is my boss who's harassing me, right, he will know how to make my life difficult, or he or
correct,
she, right? Yeah,
correct.
nice, nice.
It's always a case of quid pro quo. You do something for me, I do something for you. You are nice to me, I will give you a good appraisal, a bonus, and all that. So you see, the power is in the hands of the perpetrator. So that is why a lot of the victims are not willing to come forward. They only come forward when it's a little too much, a little too late. Okay, they come to that area, that place where they cannot move on anymore.
Nice.
I've had
Mm,
to share an experience. I've had a police case, a report, okay, or now physical contact, of course, rubbing and stroking and butt pinching and all that, which is very clear cut criminal case. She came to us and she said, my first question is obviously, why wait so long? It's been going on. Why wait so long until you make a report? She said, if I make a report, I know I'll be, they'll make life difficult. I might have to resign, or I may have to, I might be terminated. So I came to a point when I felt like getting up in the morning and committing suicide rather than go to work. Can you
Oh,
imagine how
oh,
sad it is? A victim feels that she wants to commit suicide, and the perpetrator is walking around freely.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it is that case, right? A lot of times that victims carry a lot more shame than the perpetrator, and
definitely,
not
especially
only
we
we
don't
carry,
blame.
we shame them also.
Correct. Like you said just now, Malar, your why who asked you to wear such a short skirt?
Mm,
It's your body. As long as it's decent and you follow the office dress code, you are within your right to dress like that. Whatever you wear is not a license for a third party to come and violate you.
mm,
You know,
mm.
that third party violation is something you should not um, uh, give excuses.
Sure.
In Malaysia, we try to normalize sexual harassment behavior. We
Yeah.
think, biasa lah tu, alah biasa lah, perkara kecil lah, that kind of things. I'm sure you would have heard people say this kind of words, it's a small matter. She has to overlook lah. She has to bite the bullet and go in. That kind of comments.
Mm. And I've met young women, for example, when I'm doing communication workshop, right, where they feel that there is a need to entertain, to get on with career progression, right? It's not even a safety issue as to, because they feel that this is part of the job, especially when it comes to entertaining clients. They're in sales and all that, right? And that leads me to next question. I want to move on because we've got about 10 minutes, right? I want to move on to how does sometimes, in your experience, right? So this is one example that I personally know of, when you're expected to, say, for example, entertain a client, right? In sales job. And, they feel entertainment means now you're going for a drink, means I go
Yep.
to a pub,
Yep.
means that certain behaviors are expected because they're drunk, and then they'll always hide behind "I'm drunk" kind of a story, right?
Yeah.
In your experience, how do organizations, create space for sexual harassment?
This is on one hand, going out for drinks and all that is camaraderie. You can't actually say going out for drinks will definitely lead to sexual harassment.
Sure,
I still think everybody has got to be responsible for their behavior. Just
right.
because you drink 3 glasses of beer doesn't give you license to sexually harass your colleague, or.
Mm.
So if you're asking me, the balance must come from that person. That person should know what amounts of sexual harassment. Does he have license to do it or not? So does he have license to do it? Definitely he doesn't have license. The beer is not licensed for him to do it
No one
anything.
has no one has the license to do it. Is it?
Yeah, exactly. So if he's going to hide behind 3 beers and say, "Oh, I drank 3 beers, I got drunk, so I didn't know what I'm doing," this is simply not it. He should be slapped with a disciplinary action in the force, or some kind of action should be
Okay.
taken against
So
him.
it's clear, like circumstances doesn't matter. A harassment is a harassment. Gerald is
Exactly.
asking, what is the difference between sexual harassment and assault?
Yeah, I saw the question. Yeah, Gerald, harassing behavior need not necessarily involve physical touching. Okay, harassing behavior is persistent, long term. I mean, more than once, persistent behavior which is sexual in nature. No touching is required also. Whereas sexual assault means physical assault. Like
Yes,
when you
that's
talk
what.
about, yeah, you're using some force, like you're pinching the butt, or you're just grazing up against a woman's back, or you're hugging her, all that, and that is assault. the difference between assault and harassment is one involves touching, one does not.
Okay, I have a question. How
Mhm.
do we differentiate being flirtatious? So if I'm trying to flirt with somebody to sexual harassment, is there?
Okay. Okay. Go back again to the lady. I mean, to the victim. I won't say lady, I will say the
Yeah,
victim.
let's turn this around now. I'm flirting with a guy.
Okay, this guy, how is he receptive to your flirting? If he's receptive and he flirts right back at you, there's no sexual harassment.
Okay.
But Mother, if he's running away from you and you are standing at every door and every corridor waiting to flirt with him, that's definitely sexual harassment. Let
Okay.
me
Okay.
tell you, let me tell you about a case, okay?
Uh,
A case whereby a lady, a
uh,
lady
mm,
who's a senior exec,
mm,
she had this come on flirtatious, outright touching and caressing her subordinate who was a younger male, and he came to a point where he couldn't take it anymore and he reported.
mm.
So it is a case, a court case which found that it was definitely sexual in nature, sexual harassment. Yeah.
Yeah. Make
The
a. Make, sorry, you're not finished. Sorry, sorry.
No, the first case I wanted to tell you, also for organizations to take note.
Mm,
Okay. Earlier, before this case, it was deemed that sexual harassment was between the perpetrator and the victim.
mm,
End of case. Okay.
mm,
Perpetrator will harass the victim, and victim will go to the company. If not the organization, she will go to labor court or even civil courts and file a case against him. And if evidence adduced, if he's liable, then the court will award. But now the case of Asma. Have you heard of the case of Asma? Rizwan and Asma. It's a Tabung Haji case.
mm.
Okay, it's a published case, so I'm not divulging any secrets here.
It's in the
What
paper.
site? Yeah, it's a cited case. You know, you can find it in the journals and all that.
Mm,
So in this case, court decided that not only was the perpetrator liable for harassing the victim, but the organization also must ensure that the working environment is safe for everybody. If
mm.
the organization doesn't provide a safe working environment for everybody and sexual harassment happens, the organization is equally liable
Nice.
under the law of tort.
Nice, nice, nice. Okay, let's go to one more case because I think we want the men to say to also know. So give us a few fun, juicy example of what do women say when they harass the men that you've heard of.
Okay, that one cited case. Okay, this guy, young guy, on the verge of getting married. Okay, the verge of getting married, and young, good-looking boy. I think a glow of marriage. They say when you're on the verge of marriage, you'll have a certain glow and all that. Probably yes. And senior exec told him, you're getting married, you will need some experience. So I'm willing to provide that experience for you so that you can kickstart your marriage with some experience. You will know what to do.
Wow,
So, wow. I
nice.
mean, that's like that's like most men will think, wow, that's a dream come true, but not for this boy, you know. Not for this boy who really
Most
thought
men who don't need the experience will see it as a dream come true.
at least I guess the way she, it's too strong. It's like using your position to it's actually a power play. You will notice that it's all more often than not it's a power play, imbalance of power between the victim and the perpetrator. So I guess he had enough, and he he lodged a report and went on
Mm,
to the
okay.
courts. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you for the case. I don't know whether if we can find it, we'll put it in the comment. So I have one question, right? I think it's also, I think we've established generally power play, women tend to be the victim. That's the most of the numbers, right? But we
Mhm.
also know that, women can use this. I'm generalizing again, women or men, but generalizing now with women because we're talking a lot about women. Women can also use this opportunity to play victim when they're not victims, like I think in the case of I think K7's case, right? So can you tell us a little bit more, especially for the guys who are listening, right? So
Okay.
if I'm flirting with somebody and the person is flirting back with me, and then our relationship turns sour, and then I decide, or he decides, one of us decide that, I'm going to file a case, sexual harassment case, because I have all of these conversations, and now I'm just going to turn it around and say, you are the one who harassed me, throughout, right? What can we do to be cautious to protect ourselves? I mean, specifically, I think for the men.
Do not have any affairs outside your home. As simple as that.
Uh,
Okay. All right. In this case,
that's ideal, lah. But now it is it's a relationship that two people got into, whether it's an affair or it could be two single people being in a relationship, right? And then
okay.
one turns it around, even though there was consent. Now one person, because the relationship goes sour, they turn it around and say it's sexual harassment, rape, assault. So just give us some advice.
Okay, so in this kind of scenario, Malar, you will definitely need evidence. Court is not going to deduce, court is not going to come up with a judgment unless they are satisfied that something took place. Like in this case of Kesavan and Indrani's case,
Mm,
the court was satisfied. She produced the WhatsApp, okay, WhatsApp between him and her. But in that WhatsApp, it also shows that she had also messaged him in a very flirtatious and in a manner not as what you would expect from a sexual harassment victim. So
mm,
there were some explicit messages. That is
mm,
why if you notice, the High Court judge, I think it was Atima Omar, who was
mhm,
very angry when she said that you don't indulge in an extramarital affair and come and claim sexual harassment. So
mm.
that's why, again, I go back to say that if there's no evidence, the claim of sexual harassment definitely will fail because it'll be on one. So
Nice.
if you have told your friends, your colleagues, you have kept your messages, the emails and all that, will be very helpful for a later claim of sexual harassment. Yeah, I think we are already come to the
Yeah,
end of.
yeah. Almost there. Okay, now, so when so for example, I think it's also good as a community. We need to learn how to respond to victims, right? So give us two tips. Number one is if someone comes and tells me I'm feeling harassed, guy, girl, doesn't matter, right? Because we also know there's you said 85%, we get complaints from women. We have 15% of men also being harassed, either by men or women. So men are also being harassed, right?
Yeah.
So it's happening. And if it's power play, women are getting more powerful. We cannot say that there won't be more sexual harassment cases. But putting that aside, when someone comes and tells us that I feel harassed, how can we respond better to support the victims?
Okay, you can give some sound advice. Start with sound advice. If you feel harassed, what have you done about it? Have you voiced out? Have you objected, okay, to the harasser by saying that, look, I'm not happy with your behavior. I feel harassed. If you
Mm,
haven't, if you feel afraid, then maybe you can point them in the right direction. But under the new law, okay, under the new law, you can, and not only the harasser, the victim, any friend of the victim also can go to the tribunal. So the
mm,
tribunal will be very timely. Yeah. Not only
nice.
the victim, any friend of the victim, any colleague of the victim, anybody who knows, even the husband of the victim, she comes home every day in a harassed state, he can even go to the tribunal. Anybody, a friend, a colleague, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So,
Very nice.
so first step is please confide in people that you're being harassed. That takes a big burden off your shoulders.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
And my last question, which you may probably have answered, but I just want to ask, when we look at sexual harassment behavior, just behaviors, right? People passing remarks, saying things, and all of that. What do you think we can do as a community? Now, specifically, I'm just thinking sometimes if it's a man who's harassing a woman, right? it will be wonderful if another man can speak up,
Yeah. Yep.
right? More than a woman speaking up, right? And the same thing, if a woman sees another woman harassing, right? I think it's important we speak up, right? So,
Yeah.
what can we do as a community to actually bring shame to the perpetrator in the beginning itself, instead of shaming the victim when the case comes up? So, what are your thoughts on
My thought, you have to tread very carefully. If you shame the perpetrator when nothing is proven, you are opening up yourself for a lawsuit. For
defamation? Yeah.
yes, definitely you have to. It's a very thin line here that you are treading on. Okay, so you can offer advice. You can offer some form of. You can even go to have a something like a community meeting, talk about it generally, respect women, their mothers, their wives and daughters, sisters or whatnot. But if you are going to besmirch somebody's reputation when it's not yet been proven, I mean,
Right.
you're going to talk about this person, like you say, name and shame. Okay.
Oh, no, no, that's not what I meant. What I meant is, sometimes you are in spaces, we are all together, and you see a behavior that amounts to sexual harassment. People
Yeah, you
making
can.
remarks, right? So I think as a community, we can speak up more.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can tell the burden. I mean, if you so wish to, right at the time when he's saying all this, you can tell him off and you say, "Jangan cakap macam ni. Don't say this kind of thing. This is harassing. Would you be happy if somebody spoke to your wife or your daughter like this?"
Mhm.
You know?
Mm. So basically, we need to speak up more, lah, Tamari.
Yes, speak
See,
up.
we can, because
Yeah,
when something like that happens and everybody's watching and no, everyone is acting as if it's okay, it's normal, then I think we normalize these behaviors, is what I feel.
correct, correct, correct. More people should speak up.
Nice, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to, any more wisdom you like to
Yes,
leave
yes,
people with?
Malar. I would
Yeah.
like to inform this forum here that I'm having a course in Swiss Garden Hotel, a 2 days course on sexual harassment in the workplace, which involves setting up a domestic inquiry.
Okay.
Also, among other things, a mechanism for domestic inquiry, how you are going to investigate if you are in HR and so on. If somebody comes to you with a claim of sexual harassment, what are you going to do? Okay, and this is also, most of my participants are HR people. They need to know what constitutes sexual harassment and what can be done in the event there is a sexual harassment.
Nice.
Okay.
And what I'll do is that I think I have a copy of that brochure. We'll put
Mhm.
it up in the comments. And for those who are here, and if you're in the corporate sector and if this is something that you want to learn, you can contact Tamray both on LinkedIn and Facebook, as well as the brochure that we're going to put up. So Tamray, thank you. Captain Chan has come. Thank you. Thank you, Captain Chan, for introducing Tamray to me. And Damari, thank you so much for enlightening us with your what seems like a funny example, but really serious example that can
Yes,
amount to, yeah,
yes.
funny, but
It's
really
it,
serious.
it's funny when it happens to somebody else, Malar.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
happens to us or family members. It's not so funny anymore.
not so funny anymore, right?
Yeah.
And for those who are watching, we think it's funny, but we need to now start becoming very conscious and aware of our actions and the consequences of our actions.
Yes.
I can tell you, I'm going to be a bit more careful about giving compliments already. Anyway, so
No
thank you
eating
very.
bananas behind doors.
No, I just won't eat bananas looking at people. I think that's more like
Okay.
I won't look at people because I'm quite expressive in any food that I eat. But we know. Right. So thank you very much for enlightening us. People, please be in touch with Tamray. So Tamray, thank you very much for saying yes.
Thank you very
And
much
we
for
will
having
meet
me
you
on this forum.
for another topic. Thank
Yeah.
you. We'll say
Thank
bye to
you.
Tamray now. As we say that, Elizabeth says thank you. Alice, Captain Sean, Reagan, Panir Selvam, Gerald, thank you for your questions. Shamani, Elizabeth Tangam Murugesan, thank you for joining us. And for those who didn't say hello, I don't know who you are. Thank you for joining us. I hope it was useful. And this is Malar signing off with Being Whole, Being Me, episode 67. Next week, we will meet you with another interesting guest, something really different. So, for those who've been supporting us, thank you. Please continue to subscribe. our YouTube channel or listen to our Spotify. Also subscribe. Till I meet you next week, stay safe because more people are falling sick. See you next week. Signing off. This is Mother. Bye.